Some hospital systems will be thrown into deficit, and much more. The crisis is serious. The moment is now. Your voices matter. The papers and the radio stations and the legislators need to hear the NAACP's powerful voice. Powerful voice for education and training and universal health care. Imagine if they heard from all of us fighting for all of our people. I urge you to act. If you care about our state, our city, our people, and I know you do, you must have your voice heard. So thank you, my fellow citizens, because I will, and you will, and we will fight until we win. God bless you all.
Thank you, Governor Granholm. That's our governor, and certainly we're in the fight together. I do want to just take a moment. You know that in July of this year, we'll be hosting the 97th annual National Convention of the NAACP nationally, July 7th through the 12th, right here in the city of Detroit. Folk are going to come from all across the country to be here. I'm pleased that there are a number of NAACPers who are here from across the country, branch presidents, national office staff, and one of our national board members. We have other national board members here. But I do want to ask Vice Chair Rosalind Brock of the National Board if she would come and bring greetings. Please welcome her to the city of Detroit. Vice President of the National Board of the NAACP, Ms. Rosalind Brock.
I don't want Reverend Anthony to leave because I'm going to be very, very brief. But Detroit, we've come all the way from Baltimore, Maryland to salute and to honor this man, a real leader across this country. I've got a national board member on the orange dais from Connecticut, Mr. Scott Exdale, members of our national staff. I want you to stand. We've come here, national staff, board member Scott Exdale, trustee members who are out in the audience. We salute and we honor this man, not only as a leader of the Detroit branch, the premier branch of the nation's oldest and largest civil rights organization. This man, my colleague, who was recently elected to the National Board of Directors from across this nation. We've got to give it up for leadership. A very humble man who knows that you don't always have to be out front, but this man knows how to lead from behind. It's in his heart and it's in his spirit. And I'm so glad that we have men and women of his caliber who serve to lead this nation towards freedom, justice, and equality. I just wanted to say that to you because you got an outstanding leader and Reverend Anthony. Let's give it up for Reverend Anthony. You know, at the NAACP, we're a nonpartisan organization. And so I'm not going to stand here tonight to ask you or to say to you who you should vote for in the 2008 presidential campaign. But I do want you to know that there was one candidate from the Democratic Party who asked the leadership of the NAACP from her state whether or not she should go to South Carolina to participate in the Democratic presidential debate last Thursday. She believed and respected the NAACP, that she called and asked for dispensation because she knows that we still have an active boycott against South Carolina. I just wanted you to know that tonight, that there's someone out that's running for the president of this country who believes in the values of the nation's oldest and largest civil rights organization. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vice Chair Rosalind Brock. Ladies and gentlemen, please direct your attention to the screens as we thank our corporate sponsors for their support of this tremendous event and the W.E.B. Du Bois campaign for 2007.
In 1909, several black and white leaders from different organizations such as the Committee of 40 and the Niagara Movement came together to form what is now the oldest civil rights organization in the country, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, headed by W.E.B. Du Bois. W.E.B. Du Bois Corporate Campaign. Diamond. Comcast.
More than just your telecommunications provider. We are local. We live in the city of Detroit. Our children go to school in the city of Detroit. We shop in the city of Detroit, and we worship in the city of Detroit.
Our goal is to be the company to look to first for the communications, products, and services that connect people to what's important in their lives.
First in products and services, first in the community, first in the city of Detroit.
Comcast, focus on community.
Ford Motor Company. Heritage Vision Plans Incorporated.
Heritage Optical joins the NAACP in its strong commitment to the city of Detroit. Heritage believes in this community and the importance of diversity in making Detroit strong and vital. Heritage Optical, which was founded by George P. Barnes Jr. in 1975, is Michigan's first African-American-owned, full-service optometric dispensary. Starting with one retail location in Detroit, Heritage recently opened its third Detroit location on the ground floor of the new CompuWare headquarters building downtown. Heritage, through its Vision Care Insurance Division, was recently selected as Ford Motor Company's first Tier 1 minority health care provider. Heritage manages Ford's Vision Care program for all its active and retired salaried employees worldwide. Throughout our 30 years in business, Heritage has remained committed to the growth and revitalization of Detroit and the enhancement and preservation of opportunities for the people who live here.
I'm proud, gratified, and humbled to play a role in helping move Detroit forward.
A life member, George Barnes has been active in the NAACP for many years and has been a member of the executive committee for 3 years.
Heritage Optical salutes the NAACP for 52 years of dedication to the community and commitment to diversity.
Gold. Charter One Bank. Chase. DTE Energy. MGM Grand Detroit Casino. Silver. Ambassador Bridge Company. AT&T Michigan. Comerica Incorporated. CompuWare. Greektown Casino. Hyundai Motor America. LaSalle Bank. Motor City Casino. Please refer to page 63 in your souvenir journal for a complete listing of corporate campaign sponsors.
Thank you to all of our corporate sponsors. It's my pleasure now to bring to the podium several who are in our national congressional delegation. You know them by their work. I want to bring to the podium as a group, because they all represent us well. I want to bring, of course, the senator of tenure, who perhaps has been there in terms of service and years, who has the strongest and the longest record there relative to time served. Senator Carl Levin, who is now the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee. I think I got that right. Carl Levin, a good friend of ours. Give Carl Levin a big hand. He's fighting a mighty battle on the Senate floor, dealing with issues of war and peace and justice. I want to bring the junior senator, but she's not junior in her work, our own Senator Debbie Stabenow. I want her to come to the podium. We're glad to have Debbie. She's a strong fighter on all the issues. I want to bring to the podium the Honorable, the Dean, the first African-American chairman of the House Judiciary Committee in America's history, the Honorable John Conyers, Jr., the Dean of the Congressional Black Caucus and one of the founders, the Honorable Carolyn Cheeks Kilpatrick could not be here. She's at a graduation, but you know she is the chairperson of the Congressional Black Caucus, and she sends her greetings. I know that there are other congressional people that are here, Congressman Dingell and others, but these are the representatives primarily of Detroit and of Michigan, and so let's just welcome them, and we thank them for their hard work in behalf of all of us. Senator Levin.
Thank you, Reverend Anthony. Thank you to the NAACP for your unrelenting efforts for political and social and economic justice. You know, we have a new Congress now in Washington, a Democratic Congress, and with it, we have a greater determination to join in those struggles that the NAACP has fought so long for. We have a new Congress that sees American diversity as a great strength and a resource. We have a new Congress that has put jobs, particularly manufacturing jobs, back on the agenda, as well as equal educational opportunity and affordable health care. We have a new Congress, for the first time in decades, has passed an increase in the minimum wage. It took a new Congress in order to do that. And last week, this new Congress told President Bush in a bill that we passed that we want to force the Iraqi leadership to take responsibility for their own country. It's time for American troops to begin to leave Iraq. And now we know that President Bush says he's going to veto that bill, but we want to give him a message loud and clear from Detroit tonight, using your theme. If he does veto that bill, and we hope he doesn't, because he's really vetoing the decision of the American people last November that said, change course in Iraq, change course in Iraq. But if he vetoes that bill, we're going to tell him from this podium, we're going to come back, we're going to keep going, we're going to try to find our way out of Iraq, we're going to carry on this fight until we win.
Good evening, Detroit, NAACP. You look terrific. It's an honor to be here once again with my friends and colleagues, Carl Levin and John Conyers. And of course, we're so proud of Carolyn Cheeks Kilpatrick for her role now as chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. We're so proud of John Conyers as chairman and John Dingell as Mr. Chairman and all of our other leaders now. I'll tell you what, a majority, being in the majority is a good thing. It's always an honor to be here, and I want to thank Reverend Anthony and Hester Wheeler and everyone involved in making this evening a great success. It's such a thrill every year to see so many people that come out on a Sunday afternoon to gather together one more time to commit ourselves to the future for our children and our grandchildren. And it's also wonderful to one more time see our president, Bill Clinton, here in Detroit at the NAACP dinner. As Senator Levin said, a new Congress is creating a new direction. And I would only add that when we passed our budget resolution just a few weeks ago, we placed at the top of the list funding education from Head Start to access to college. Education is now again at the top of the funding for the federal government. And we made a commitment to fund health care for every child in America. We've put the money in the budget, we've made the commitment, and we know it's just step one to making sure every American has health care in the greatest country in the world. We have put manufacturing back on the agenda and jobs, and we also added one more thing that has not been a priority in the budget. To make sure the brave men and women coming home from this war have the health care and the opportunity to come back and be successful in this great country. We support our troops. We are saying we've had enough of the war, but we support our troops. And when they come home as veterans, we want them to have what they need. You know, Frederick Douglass in 1857, as you know, said, if there is no struggle, there is no progress. The NAACP understands you have been the heart and the soul, the leaders of the struggle. We are making progress, but we will not stop until we win. God bless you.
Brothers and sisters, Mr. President, good to see you again. I waited 12 years from the time I started off as the least senior member on the House Judiciary Committee. And now, thanks to that great election of last year, I stand before you now, today, for the first time, as the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee. And do we have a job? Let me start off very briefly by saying I was against the Iraq War before it was cool. We need to be out of there by next year, and what the resolution that Senator Levin referred to that's passed the House and the Senate will allow that to happen. And it's because of the NAACP in Detroit and across the country that's helped that happen. The other matter that is closer to me now than anything else but ending the war is that we create, for the 47 million people that don't have a dime's worth of insurance, and the 30 million who have insurance but are underinsured, we want a universal, single-payer health care bill as soon as we can get it. The system has crashed. And so I'm so pleased for the third term to be leading that cause. But on some other matters, we passed a hate crimes bill out of the Judiciary Committee. We passed a vote for the District of Columbia for that great delegate, Eleanor Holmes Norton. She has the right to vote. We're examining the Department of Justice, and I close on this, because when you politicize the Department of Justice, you make sure that we're not going to get voter integrity that we need coming out of that department. We're not going to get checking out police brutality, which we need coming out of the department. And so I've had the U.S. attorneys that were fired before me. We have subpoenas for some more. We're interviewing others. And just between us today, I don't want the Attorney General to resign. I want him to answer every single question all of you have here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representatives. We appreciate your work and your dedication. I want y'all to know that we are on time. We have the biggest dinner in town, and we get out earlier than anybody else in town. We're not going to be here all night. We might have 10,000 people, but we're not going to be here at 10 o'clock tonight. We're going to do this, and we're going to do it right. It's my pleasure now to call on Attorney John Johnson, member of our board, who is now going to present our first award, Freedom and Justice, to the Honorable Anna Diggs Taylor. John is our first Vice President for the Detroit branch NAACP and also the Corporate Counsel for the City of Detroit.
Thank you, Reverend Anthony, and good evening, freedom fighters. Our first honoree in her climb to judicial prominence knows firsthand the pain of discrimination and rejection and this society's habit of judging books by their cover. But she also knows a thing or two about making history. Born on December 9th, 1932 in Washington, D.C., the legal giant we now know as U.S. District Judge Anna Diggs Taylor had great difficulty obtaining her first job as an attorney for the Office of Solicitor for the U.S. Department of Labor, despite graduating from both Barnard College and Yale Law School. Race and gender, and still are and were, major obstacles placed in the path of many law graduates who simply wanted to practice the craft for which they had spent 19 years and lots of money in preparation for. Yet, she overcame these institutional obstacles to enjoy a successful career practicing law with the Department of Labor as an assistant Wayne County prosecutor, an assistant United States attorney, and her last job as a supervising attorney with Corporation Counsel with the City of Detroit Law Department. There's no doubt in my mind that it was her last job that caught the attention of President Jimmy Carter, who on May 17, 1979, nominated Anna Diggs Taylor for a seat on the federal bench. As she headed down the trail first blazed in 1966 by Constance Baker Motley, a former NAACP Legal Defense Fund attorney and the first black female judge in America, Judge Taylor was about to make her story. She was confirmed on October 31st, 1979, and on November 2nd, 1979, became the first black woman to be appointed to the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Michigan, an historic occasion. And on December 31st, 1996, she made even more history by becoming the first black woman to serve as the Chief Judge for the Eastern District. Truly an accomplishment. Now, as I said earlier, Judge Taylor is no stranger to history-making precedents. And on August 17, 2006, she did it again. If you're a lover of freedom and justice, one of your heroes has got to be George W. Crockett Jr., a lawyer, jurist, and a U.S. congressman, and a person who was not afraid to do what was right. In the book, Black Judges on Justice, Judge Crockett is quoted as saying, "Most people don't realize how much judicial discretion controls what is and what is not the law in this country. Judicial discretion basically means that many cases are decided on an individual judge's view of what is right and wrong. It's that simple. Judges determine what the law is and what the law will be." He added, "Few people appreciate the fact that the most powerful public official in America is a judge. Judges tell legislatures when they are wrong and when they have to do the job over again. Judges tell presidents what they can and cannot do." On January 17, 2006, the ACLU and other advocacy groups filed a lawsuit demanding an end to an eavesdropping program secretly ordered in 2001 by President Bush that allowed the National Security Agency to intercept telephone calls and emails between the United States and overseas residents without court approval in cases in which the government suspected one party of having links to terrorism. The plaintiffs were journalists, lawyers, educators, and all swore that they held a well-founded belief that their communications were being intercepted by the federal government and that their constitutionally protected communication was substantially chilled and impaired. The Justice Department argued that the program was well within Bush's authority as president, but that proving it would require revealing state secrets. Exactly 7 months later, on August 17, 2006, while noting that many of those state secrets were already a matter of public knowledge and that the United States is not a monarchy, Judge Taylor upheld the tenets and underpinnings of our democracy and, taking a cue from Judge Crockett, told the president that the wiretapping was without legal justification and he must cease and desist, violating the constitutional rights of plaintiffs. In fact, Judge Taylor wrote, quote, "It was never the intent of the framers of the Constitution to give the president such unfettered control, particularly where his actions blatantly disregarded the parameters clearly enumerated in the Bill of Rights. There are no hereditary kings in America," she wrote, "and no powers created by the Constitution. So all inherent powers must derive from that Constitution." So, for your academic achievement, for your breaking barriers, for your 50 years of public service, for your community service, for your judicial leadership, for making history, and yes, for having the courage to tell the president what he can do with this eavesdropping program, the Detroit branch of the NAACP proudly awards you its 2007 Freedom and Justice Award to the U.S. District Court Judge Anna Diggs Taylor.
Thank you, everyone, for your wonderful support. Jimmy Carter thanks you as well. Jimmy Carter appointed me to this job. Here's the...
Certainly, we would now want to make our next Freedom and Justice Award presentation. I'm going to ask Attorney Melvin Butch Hollowell, who is the General Counsel for the Detroit branch NAACP, if he would make that presentation to Mr. Joel Ferguson. Butch.
Good evening, NAACP. I'm here to talk about Joel Ferguson now. And I could read his resume for you, but we'd be here all night and we all want to hear President Clinton. We all know Joel. He's one of us. Vice Chairman of the Democratic National Committee Black Caucus. He was appointed by President Clinton to the Federal Home Loan Bank Board, Chairman of the Board of the Michigan State University Board of Trustees, Lansing City Council, and I'm not done. He's a big-time businessman and power broker, but he didn't start at the top. He started working on the line, like so many of you at the Oldsmobile plant in Lansing. He worked his way up, and now his company owns 14 residential units all over Michigan, office towers all across Michigan. He's owned 2 television stations, a bank. Joel is loaded. He's a baller of the first rank. But he never forgot where he came from. And some of our businessmen, and some of our athletes, and some of our entertainers make their millions, and they move out to the suburbs, and we never see him again until we see him on TV, right? Well, Joel is in the fight. He's like those guys like Harry Belafonte and Sidney Poitier and Ray Charles, who took risks even though they had much. He puts himself out there time and again to make sure that African Americans are not just at the table, but that we're at the head of the table. At every Democratic convention, there's Joel fighting to make sure that we are not taken for granted. Now, we all remember when Joel was the chairman, and we were so proud in 1988 when he was the chairman of the Jesse Jackson for President campaign. You remember that? Well, Jesse, even though they said it was impossible, won the state of Michigan. You remember that? We were in lines. There were lines of people who voted that had never voted before, and Joel Ferguson was the one who chaired the whole effort, and it was, I remember this so clearly. It was the media. The media kept asking Joel Ferguson, who was the chairman of Jesse's campaign, they said, what does Jesse want? Do you remember they all used to ask that? What does Jesse want? And it was as if an African American couldn't possibly want the top spot. And Joel would answer, we want the promise of America. We have a right to be here. We have a right to run. We have a right to win. We have a right to justice. Ladies and gentlemen, Joel Ferguson, thank you for being a drum major for justice. And we present to you tonight the Freedom and Justice Award. Joel Ferguson.
I'm really honored in many ways. And the first way I'm honored is be honored at the same time you're honoring Anna Diggs Taylor. And I'm just really blessed with that. I've been very blessed in all my life, but this is the greatest thing that's happened to me, being honored by the NAACP. And it's extra special for me because when I first ran for office, people voted for me because they thought so much of my mother, who was the president of the NAACP in Lansing. So I wish she was here, and I feel very grateful and very honored by this. I want to say one thing though, and I'm not supposed to talk too long, but President Gettelfinger, when I was working my way through college at Oldsmobile in Lansing, I remember I went in there one day, and I was 24 years old. I was a junior in college, and I'm carrying my books into the factory, and these guys called me over, and they knew I was going to college. They say there, Ferguson, what are you carrying those books for? I said, I'm going to Michigan State. And they said, well, what year are you? They had all the right questions. I said, I'm a junior. They said, how many credits do you have? I said, 112. I said, how many take to graduate? I said, 160. And they said, you're 24. Well, Gout, the rate you're going, you're not going to graduate until you're 26. And I said, you know, I said, if everything goes all right, I'm going to be 26 anyway. And this is what the message we've got to tell our young people, that if they keep working, they're going to be whatever age they're going to be anyway. So they have to keep making the effort. And there's no pleasure now. There's gratification from hard work and staying to where you're doing. And I'm honored tonight because I'm here with two great presidents. Wendell Anthony, we wouldn't have the greatest Freedom Fund dinner without his leadership. But the dinner is just the frosting on the cake. All year long, we have great leadership with his leadership and with all your work here in Detroit. And I can't say enough for President Clinton. He is America's president. And we're so blessed to have him here today. And we're so blessed that he's going to be looking over someone's shoulder later on. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel, and thank you, Attorney Hollowell. We certainly want to acknowledge our award recipients. It's now my pleasure to present the final award, and this is a Lifetime Achievement Award. This is for a gentleman who has worked with us, helped us, moved with us so long for so many years. Some of you may wonder, how did I get into this? Well, over 15 years ago, a fellow by the name of Ernie Lofton came into my office at Fellowship Chapel on 6 Mile and sat down and said, we want you to run for president of the NAACP. And I said, the NAACP, I ain't interested in an irrelevant, repressive, backwards organization. But he said, no, we want you to be involved. And I said, well, if you make certain that folk want to be involved and want to be engaged and want me to be there, and if things go right, I will run. And if the current president did not run, I will run. At that time, it was Arthur Johnson, because he was a friend, and I didn't want to run against a friend. So he did not run, and I got in. And we won, and the rest is history. That was in 1992. But prior to that, Ernie Lofton has been selling and promoting the NAACP for years. He has sold hundreds of thousands of dollars in tickets for this dinner, which you're sitting here for. He led our march in 1993 as we honored 30 years of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And as you know, we had 250,000 people in the city of Detroit to commemorate the 30th anniversary of King's I Have a Dream speech, the first time delivered here in Detroit. Ernie has been an international vice president of the United Auto Workers for the Ford Motor Company division. He is now retired. He is now retired from his work actively with the branch, but his spirit continues to live on in labor. His spirit continues to live on in the NAACP. His spirit continues to live on in me as a result of him first coming and encouraging me to run for this office. For a lifetime of achievement, for a lifetime of consistency, for a lifetime of labor, for a lifetime of love, for a lifetime of commitment, please join me in presenting the Lifetime Achievement Award to Brother Ernie Lofton of the United Auto Workers, Vice President of the Ford Motor Company Division. He's worthy of our recognition. Brother Ernie Lofton.
Thank you, Rev. Behind that is not much I can say or should say, but you don't miss an opportunity like this when you've got the greatest president of the NAACP in Detroit and the greatest president of the United States of America. The president might not remember, but I've taken a number of pictures with him. He's shaking his head. He remembers a lot. And I told him tonight, I said, this is the first time that I took a picture with you that I had a flower in my lapel. He said, I remember, Ernie. Rev, I'm truly pleased and honored to accept this prestigious award. The NAACP has meant and continues to mean a lot to me, as well as it does the many of us who are in this auditorium. The NAACP needs all of us. We cannot turn our backs on what is happening in our country today. People think that the NAACP is not what it used to be, but I can tell you this. In Detroit, with Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick, in Lansing, with Governor Jennifer Granholm, in Detroit, with Wendell Anthony as the president of the NAACP, you haven't seen anything yet. So again, thank you, Reverend Anthony.
We're about to get there. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to take a look at this plaque. The lifeblood of the NAACP is membership. Years ago, we had a competition, friendly and in love, among churches. We are reinstituting that. It's going to be called the Champions of Church Membership Drive. Churches in Detroit, and there are many. If you want to help us to grow and to expand, and we need you, we want you to add your name to this plaque. Right now, it's empty. But as we launch this campaign, it's going to be full. There will be a category for churches the size of 1,000 members or over, churches that are sized from 500 to 400 to 999, and churches from 1 member to 499. And so if you are able and willing to help us with our members, to increase our numbers, we need more freedom fighters, we want you to join this campaign. Your name will be listed in the archives of the history of the NAACP in our office, and each year you will be able to win a special cup. You can only get this cup. You can only get this cup by being a winner. And right now, there are no names on it, but soon and very soon, the name of your church can be cemented in history as the church that brings forth the most freedom fighters for the struggle of our people. And we're going to count down tonight because membership begins tonight. From this point, we want to, when the National Convention comes here, we want to put in their hands 10,000 new members. When they come to Detroit in July, 10,000 new members. Can we do that? Can we do that? We can do that. And so we begin tonight with the countdown from 10. Membership is on. Count with me. 10. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's on. From this point on, for the next 90 days, we want you to go out and bring new freedom fighters to our struggle. And you can call the branch on Monday at 313-871-2087 to sign up for the campaign. President Clinton, we've given out a lot of awards, and there's an old African proverb that says one does not invite a guest to their house without giving them a gift. 7 years ago, we brought you a gift all the way from Zimbabwe. Tonight, we have another gift because you've given us so much of the gift of yourself. Because you have been busy in terms of your global initiatives. And I had the privilege of being in New York last year at the invitation of the president to come to his global initiatives in which he dealt with global warming, with health care, with education, with all the kind of services dealing with AIDS prevention around the world. And through that global initiative, this man has raised and got committed pledges of over $7 billion to fight poverty and global warming all around the world. He truly has a global initiative. And so, for the man who is worldwide, the only thing we could give him would be a globe to represent the fact that he is global. So President Clinton, please accept this from the Detroit branch NAACP and the city of Detroit and its family for all the global initiatives that you have undertaken since you've been working on this prime agenda in our nation. We are now at the time by which we have assembled. Ladies and gentlemen, my brothers and my sisters, Mr. President, welcome back to Detroit. What a difference an election makes. During your journey towards that high office, you were elected. During the last 6 years of occupation of that house, someone was selected. We all remember that you left this nation with the biggest surplus in our history. You left this nation with the biggest surplus in our history. Now some have made major deficits our national destiny. Mr. President, you made trade and support with African nations a priority. Now no one speaks for their concern with any significant authority. You instituted and established a National Commission on Race, or One America, in the 21st century. And focus was given all over Capitol Hill. And now we have a president in the 21st century who just found out that black folks live in Brazil. What a difference an election makes. During the Clinton administration, we celebrated diversity. Diverse judges nominated and many were appointed to the courts, reflecting the true colors of America. You appointed more people of color to the administration than any other president in history. Now we are fighting against nominees recommended to the court like we are marching backwards throughout history. What a difference an election makes. We used to take pride in the stock market, looking forward to our pensions and early retirement. Now Enron has done an end run, zapping the financial energy from millions of Americans, creating a negative predicament, while WorldCom and Halliburton still leave America's economic prosperity uncertain. An unjust war in Iraq just don't know how to get our soldiers back. Can't find no weapons of mass destruction that were never there. Can't see Hurricane Katrina victims that are still in need of reconstruction that are still here. Oh my, what a difference an election makes. From wiretapping our phones to acting like somebody placed you on a throne. Oh my, what a difference an election makes. Mr. President, we've come too far to turn back now. You didn't just walk across the Edmund Pettus Bridge for vanity, but you helped to build bridges among all people from the Midwest to the Mideast for humanity. Unlike affirmative action, when you said, let's mend it, don't end it, with this current administration, we can't mend it, so we just got to hurry up and end it. 6 years. 6 years ago, Bush should have been pushed because Gore would have done more. Oh, I'm just hitting. We sure enough missed Bill Clinton. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said that we must accept finite disappointment, but we must never lose infinite hope. Only in this way shall we live without the fatigue of bitterness and the drain of resentment. And so we still have hope today. Your work, your life still gives us hope. Your global initiatives, giving health care to organizations in East Africa, training medical professionals in South Africa, building HIV/AIDS centers in Rwanda and Uganda, providing clean water access in Ghana, Nigeria, and Niger, creating microfinancial clients in India, tsunami relief in East Africa, building a medical center in the Congo, building health centers in Asia, working to develop a vaccine to stop HIVs everywhere, working on financial literacy in Harlem, uniting religious organizations in citizen care, opening new markets to combat global poverty, building websites to link developing organizations with developed resources, creating a network of scientists to teach and target poverty and disease, aiding the UN to combat global warming. Oh yes, we still have hope that even though you are not in the White House, that you represent the good that can still come from our collective house. For you didn't just read about the Harlem Renaissance of yesterday. You opened up an office in the middle of Harlem to help start a Renaissance today. We have hope because you were the man back then. We have hope because you are still the man right now. Whether it's playing the sax, I'm just stating the facts. I told y'all back then, don't mess with Bill, but since you did, all we got is a little bush sitting up on a hill. Detroit, ain't no thrill in that. Detroit, he's back. And that's sure enough. Our friend, our neighbor, our co-laborer in the freedom struggle. So nice, we had to do it twice. Welcome back, the president's president, the Honorable William Jefferson Clinton.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We have called this gathering to announce that I will be producing Wendell Anthony's next hip-hop CD. We're going to the top, baby. If you know what's good for you, just buy into our enterprise. My goodness, thank you, my friend. Thank you, Governor Granholm, Senator Levin, Senator Stabenow, Chairman Conyers. I love the sound of that. There were years when I didn't know if we'd ever have a chairman of the House Judiciary Committee who had even read the Constitution, much less believed in it. It's nice to have him there. Mayor Kilpatrick, thank you for your vigorous leadership. Thanks for taking me to Tech Town and to Next Energy today. Governor, thank you for being there, and thank you for building a tomorrow economy for the people of Michigan. Thank you, Ron Gettelfinger, for your leadership of the UAW and of this dinner, and thank you, Troy Clark, and all the others who were part of this dinner tonight. And I'd like to say, as has already been said, Judge Taylor, I'm honored to be on the same podium with you, grateful for your life, and literally relieved and ecstatic that you're still on the bench. And I congratulate Ernest Lofton, and I'm glad the NAACP gave him an excuse to wear a boutonniere. He looks pretty in his flower. And my friend Joel Ferguson, he meant what he said. You know, when a person has the kind of success Joel has had, you'd be amazed how many times people think, well, you know, we ought to recognize him, but it won't mean anything to him.